Hey you. Yes, bundled up, teeth chattering, about to click away you. Before we step through the oak door into tonight's ice-crusted nightmare, do me a favor. Hit that little thumbs up, tap subscribe, ring whatever frosty bell YouTube's hiding these days, and tell me in the comments two things. Where you're watching from and what the temperature is right now. I promise, by the time we're done, even your draftiest apartment will feel positively tropical. Ready? Good. Pull your cloak tighter, duck your head against the wind howling off the moat, and follow the torchlight. The portcullis creaks open just enough for us to slip inside, and instantly the air turns sharper, like iron splinters in your lungs. You smell damp stone, old rushes, and a faint tang of smoke that can't quite fight the cold. Welcome to a 14th century castle in January, a fortress built to repel armies, not the weather. The walls are 5 feet thick, but they bleed chill like slabs of midnight. You rub your gloved hands, already stiff. Don't bother warming them with your breath, the mist will freeze on your lips. Tonight we're not lords or ladies. We're simply inhabitants trying to survive what chroniclers called the Wolf's Month, when the sun rises late, sets early, and forgets to do any actual warming in between. First stop, the courtyard. Snow drifts in sculpted dunes against barrel vaults and stairwells. The well is capped with a wooden lid glazed in ice, because drawing water after dusk means chiseling through a crust thick enough to ruin an axe. A stable boy, no older than 12 and missing 2 fingertips to last year's frostbite, slaps a reluctant mule to keep it moving in circles. Each rotation powers a clanking pulley that hoists buckets of semi-frozen slush for the kitchens. His breath comes out in ragged clouds, crystallizes on the wisps of hair dangling from his hood, then melts when he ducks into the barn's relative warmth, which never climbs above freezing. You feel your boots skid. Beneath the snow lurks a mirror of black ice. Nights fall here too. A broken hip in winter is often a death sentence. The surgeon is 3 hours away by sled, and the sled's runners are cracked. So everyone walks cautiously, shoulders hunched, eyes down, accepting the castle's silent threat. Slip once, and you might lie in the infirmary until spring, wrapped in stiff linens, praying gangrene doesn't set in. Let's push through the door to the great hall. Ah, relief, at first. Rush mats smolder in the central hearth, perfuming the air with rosemary and barley hulls. 2 spits rotate haunches of boar by hand power. An undercook's job is to crank the lever while his eyelashes frost together. The flames paint the ceiling with orange flickers, yet you still see your breath. Heat rises, but not enough to fill a chamber vaulted 30 feet high. The Lord's table, raised on a dass, is positioned closest to the embers. Even he keeps a fur mantle draped over chainmail. His cupbearer tips a jug. The wine steams as it meets the goblet. That steam condenses, dribbles down the silver, and freezes before it hits the table. Sip too slowly and you'll crunch ice shards between your teeth like gravel. Servants scurry along the periphery, hugging the walls where drafts seep through arrow slits. They wear layered wool, yes, but wool traps body heat only if it stays dry, and dampness is relentless. Sweat from hauling firewood turns to clammy clam in minutes. Gloves grow stiff, fingertips numb. Someone drops a trencher. The bread cracks like a plate when it hits stone. Nobody scolds him. They're too busy breathing into their sleeves. Listen to the ambient soundtrack. The pop of pine knots, the hiss where snowflakes dive down the chimney, the distant groan of roof beams contracting. Sometimes, in the depth of night, you'll hear a cannon shot crack. Just ice fracturing inside the walls, releasing trapped water with the violence of a quarrel bolt. Masons inspect at dawn, hammering frozen wedges into damaged mortar, because if a fissure widens, the next siege might come from winter itself. Speaking of dawn, let's follow a watchman up the spiral stair. The steps narrow clockwise, forcing any right-handed attacker to expose more torso, but tonight they serve another purpose, funneling wind. Every twist is a venturi, a throat where the gale accelerates. Your hood flaps like a banner, your candle dies, darkness wraps around you tighter than the stairwell. Underfoot, the stone's so cold it squeals. Touch the railing, bare iron, rimed with frost, and skin will stick like wax on parchment. The watchman laughs at your hesitation. His palm is calloused. He's lost all feeling. Nerves turned to whispering ghosts seasons ago. We emerge onto the battlements. Do not lean into the wind. It will throw you off balance. The crenelles are choked with snow, gun loops crusted shut. Stars glitter mercilessly overhead. The moon hangs white and thin, like a blade's edge. Down below, the river is solid glass. Men once risked drowning in its current. Now they fear falling through and freezing before they can climb out. The watchman stamps his feet, again and again, to keep blood moving. He's allotted one brazier filled with charcoal scavenged from the smithy, 2 hours of embers to last a 12-hour shift. When the glow dies, he'll pace the wall, reciting prayers, slapping shoulders, humming tavern tunes about summer. These strategies buy him minutes, not warmth. You wonder, why not more braziers? More firewood? Because forests stand miles away, and woodcutters must fell timber in waist-deep snow, then haul logs on sledges dragged by oxen whose breath ices their own nostrils shut. Most years, the castle's stockpile dwindles by mid-February. A steward measures each stick like currency. One extra torch on the parapet could mean one fewer billet for boiling the physician's water, one less plank to mend the hayloft floor, one less spark of hope. Let's descend, carefully, into the dormitory where squires and men-at-arms sleep packed like spoons. 30 bodies share an unheated chamber, relying on shared exhalations to push the frost back an inch. Bedding, straw pallets stuffed months ago, now half-rotted, crawling with beetles that survive by slowing their hearts to the rhythm of the cold. Each man wraps in a blanket patched too many times to count. The fabric still smells of the urine vat used to set dye. As you step, crunch. Ice frost rims each strand of straw. A squire coughs, hacking up phlegm that freezes in the cup he keeps beneath the bunk. He'll toss it out a loophole tomorrow, and the chunk will shatter on the bailey like greenish glass. People talk of catching chill, but chill catches you. It hunts. First it nibbles toes, dull ache, then pins and needles, then blessed numbness, until sensation returns as agony, swelling, blackening. Frostbite is not dramatic, it's bureaucratic. It files away pieces of you, one joint, one nail, into the deep archive of winter, and you barely notice until tally day. By March, a surprising number of gloves have fewer fingers than when they were sewn. Let's peek at the kitchen again, pre-dawn. The cook lifts the lid from a cauldron, porridge stiff as mortar. He chips it apart, adds melted snow, grit included, and stirs. Breakfast for the garrison. No fresh greens since Michaelmas. Scurvy creeps in behind the cold. Gums swell, teeth loosen. To stave it off, the healer prescribes a warming tonic. Wine mulled with pepper, cloves if trade routes are open, and a shaving of dried orange peel hoarded like treasure. One sip blazes down your throat, then vanishes, leaving a hollow colder than before. Let's tiptoe to the chapel. Cold loves silence. The nave is lit by 3 sputtering candles. Wax chills so quickly it curls like snail shells. The priest's breath fogs the vestments as he chants matins. Stone absorbs his voice, gives nothing back, just a distant drip where condensation meets frozen holy water. Parishioners kneel on frost-dusted flagstones, crossing themselves with ice-numb fingers. They pray for mercy, but mostly they pray for sun. Now, a word about apparel. Wool undertunics, wool hose, wool everything, but wool can only trap heat you already have. Once your core cools, fabric becomes decoration. Some fortunate souls own fur, marten, fox, occasionally sable smuggled through Hanseatic ports. But fur betokens rank. Wear rabbit pelts above your station and risk fines. So many sleep in garments never removed, clothing that stiffens with smoke and sweat, that harbors lice hibernating until the thaw. You scratch and feel the welts swell. You thank the cold for at least slowing the pests. Even latrines conspire. The garderobe chute opens straight into open air. Sit too long, and your own skin will stick to the stone seat. A humorist once joked, the only time nobles appreciate peasants is in winter, when someone else must pour boiling water to free their lordship's backside from the frozen throne. The joke is told in whispers. Humor, like heat, rises from the desperate. Back in the great hall, night again. A minstrel plucks a harp so out of tune the notes shiver. He sings of July meadows to trick minds away from present misery. Couples huddle. A young mother exposes her breast to nurse. The baby latches, cheeks reddening from the effort. Milk slows like honey in a cellar. The child whimpers. She pulls her shawl tighter, humming lullabies that sound suspiciously like prayers. Suddenly a trumpet blares. Not an alarm, just the steward announcing the gates are barred for the night. Anyone still outside must find shelter among livestock or risk freezing against the wall. Inside, residents settle into what passes for sleep, the half-wakeful stupor of people afraid to let fire die. 2 sentries pace between hearth and door, feeding logs exactly every quarter hour. Miss a feeding, and embers dim. Domed moisture above the fire basket condenses, hisses, snuffs flame, relight. You'll need tinder kept dry in an iron box beside the steward's bed. Lose that key, and the entire household may perish before dawn. You roll out a pallet near strangers who smell of tallow and cold leather. You wrap your cloak around your head, only your nose peeks out, already numb. The stone floor leaches warmth relentlessly. Eventually you drift, dreaming of August. But your sleep is light. At intervals, a draft snakes under the door, lifting the fringe of your blanket. You wake, curl tighter, wait for shivers to subside. They don't. They magnify into full-body tremors that clack your teeth and seize your calves. You think of that watchman still pacing the parapet, whisper a wish for him, then for yourself. Dawn feels mythical, and then miracle. A faint gray leak smears the arrow slits. Roosters in the yard, breath pluming, crow with cracked voices. Someone opens the shutter above the hearth. A shaft of winter sunlight slides across the rushes. It is weak, watery, insufficient, but people pause to lift their faces. Steam curls from unwashed hair as frost evaporates. For a heartbeat, the castle exhales. You survived another night. Clap for yourself. Not everyone did. A groom didn't wake in the stables. They'll find him after breakfast, curled like a foal, straw frozen to his beard. The chaplain will say prayers. The steward will tally grain. Life continues, colder by one more shadow. And you, traveler, pull boots over half-frozen toes, groaning at the stiffness. You flex fingers that creak like old hinges. Somewhere beyond the walls, rumors of spring exist. Merchants swear almond trees bloom in Iberia already. You cling to that rumor the way you cling to your last ember. But tonight, the wolf's month still owns the land, and frostbite still stalks these corridors. Before we shuffle into day's chores, scraping ice from arrow loops, stirring congealed pottage, counting firewood thinner than hopes. Pause this video, stretch your warming fingers toward whatever heater you have, and remember to smash that like button so hard it sparks. If you felt the chill seep through your screen, drop A in the comments. Tell me, what's the coldest night you've ever survived? I read every story while buried under blankets, I promise. The staircase, barely wider than a man's shoulders, spirals counterclockwise this time, hewn straight into the bedrock to drop us toward the underbelly. Snowmelt from the courtyard seeps through mortar joints, freezes again, and grows cruel little stalactites you must snap aside or risk slitting your cheek. Every footfall echoes like a drum in a coffin. The sound comes back colder than when it left. Your breath curls against the torch's guttering halo, then vanishes into a darkness so thick it seems alive. Perhaps it is. They say cold breeds spirits more efficiently than graves do. At the landing you feel it first. A blunt wall of air 10 degrees colder than the stairwell, as though someone opened a door onto the night sea. No windows down here, yet wind wriggles through chinks and slams you with its brine-soaked fingers. The torch flame gutters sideways, revealing an archway of oak boards furred with salt crystals. Salt everywhere, gleaming under firelight like a galaxy spilled across the grain. It isn't decoration, it's the fortress's lifeline and its hidden assassin. Step inside the cellar proper. Your boots crunch on frosted sawdust strewn to soak spills. 4 dozen barrels, ash staves banded in iron, tower overhead like sleeping giants. They hold pork quarters, rumor says, but also secrets. Each lid is wax-sealed, tamped with tallow to keep air and moisture out, though on mornings after a thaw you'll see brine weeping through hairline cracks, freezing mid-drip into glassy icicles. Cellar hands call them ladder rungs for rats. Look closely. You can see nibble marks where rodents climb, gnaw, fall stunned into the crust of salt below, only to freeze upright like tiny grotesques. Cats patrol, tails puffed, their paws leave prints that fill with hoarfrost almost instantly. Even predators struggle against this chill. The reason for all this salt is simple. Life during winter is mostly an argument with decay. Slaughtered hogs in November must still be edible in March, so each piece is packed in a coffin of salt, pound for pound, flesh to crystal, till moisture flees in terror. Trouble is, salt steals water from anything it touches, including human skin. Run your fingertip across a barrel rim too slowly, and it'll leach the oils, then the heat, leaving a pale burn that blossoms into fissures by evening. Cellar boys show off their winter rings, white, cracked bands around every knuckle, as though they're badges of survival. Farther in, torches give way to a single tallow lamp hung from an iron hook. Its flame barely flickers, shielded by a horn pane gone translucent with age. Why so dim? Because too much fire agitates the air, melts frost, invites rot. The steward cannot risk months of provisions turning rancid for the temporary comfort of light. So workers memorize rotes, count steps by heart. 9 paces from door to the first rack of pickled eel jars, 6 more to the sauerkraut vats, 3 to the shelves where onions braid like knotted serpents. Miss your count, and you'll shoulder a barrel, topple it, and your mistake will literally taste like ruin. Pork ruined by oxygen, salt wasted, ration lists rewritten. Listen, do you hear it? A faint clunk, splash, and muffled swear. The apprentice cellarman Tom has dislodged a lid. We shuffle closer, breath clouds mingling with the low brine fog that hugs the floor. By torch glow, we see him perched on a stool, arms buried elbow deep in icy sludge. He's fishing for a ham hock that slipped from its hook and vanished beneath the surface, a treasure dive into liquid death. 40 gallons of near-freezing brine can suck the strength from muscles faster than a blade. Your heart spasms in protest. Blood races to escape, fingers cramp into claws. Tom's shuddering, but he will not quit. The Lord's Supper depends on that hock. When he finally hauls it up, flesh pallid as moonlight, the skin of his forearms is mottled yellow-white. He swears he can't feel his bones. We wrap him in sacking, massage life back into veins, and he laughs through chattering teeth. Better my arms than my position. Lose supplies and you're whipped. Lose an arm to frost and at least you keep your honor. Shelves against the north wall showcase cheeses wheel stacked like shields. They look solid, but tap one and the rind rings brittle. Too cold even for mold, save the powder blue veins that freeze mid-crawl. When firewood dwindles, the cook slices shavings to melt over barley porridge. Calories are calories, but diners complain the taste resembles lamp oil. Still, they swallow every bite. Hunger is the only appetite that outpaces cold. You notice a darker corridor branching left. That's the ice chamber, repurposed from a siege cistern. Originally it stored water, now it hoards winter itself. In November, peasants cut blocks from the river, drag them here on sledges, stack them pyramid style, and bury the pile under straw and pine needles. All winter long, these blocks refuse to melt. They fuse instead into a monolith so clear you can see straw threads fossilized inside. Touch it and it howls, squeaking under your palm like tortured glass. Why keep ice in a world already frozen? Because not every day is below zero. By February, a sudden thaw can spoil meat faster than gossip. This reserve buys time. It also births disaster. More than one servant, hurried or drunk, has slipped atop the slick mound, cracked a rib, and lain unseen till morning, preserved like meat himself. Moving along, we reach the barrel of fire salt, a curious paradox. A mix of salt, ash, and mustard seed reserved for curing venison. During shortage, guards stir pinches into their ale to warm the blood. It does, even as it dehydrates, inflames gums, and sends men stumbling to the privy clutching stomachs that feel aflame while skin stays numb. The healer calls it the burning chill, a sickness with no remedy but restraint. Yet on nights when marrow feels like ice slurry, temptation overrules wisdom. Rats again, scurrying overhead along a beam furry with frost lint. One misstep, it slips, lands in a pickle barrel, and thrashes. Tom frowns, fishes it out with tongs, tosses the corpse into a bucket destined for tomorrow's kennel stew. Waste not. Cats watch with lantern eyes, but they too suffer. Their pads crack, tails tip with frostbite. One tomcat limps permanently, half an ear gone. He sleeps pressed against the warmest barrel he knows, one holding lamp oil, not food. Even animals respect the ration hierarchy. Let your torch sweep the ceiling. Hoarfrost feathers dangle like chandelier prisms, shimmering with every breath of air. If one breaks free, it can spear a shoulder, drawing blood that instantly beads and freezes. Cellarmen wear leather caps, not for style, but defense. Sound changes down here. Words fall flat, muffled by salt-laden humidity. Or is it dryness? Hard to tell. Clap your hands and echo skitters off into cul-de-sacs of barrels. In the hush, you almost hear your own pulse, slower than usual. Cold does that, pulls your heartbeat into hibernation. No wonder castle scribes penned fewer lines in winter. Ink thickens, quills snap, and even thoughts crawler. We pass the herb crates, rosemary and thyme dried to brittle needles, peppermint for upset bellies, lavender to mask the smell of unwashed bodies. Odd, you think, herbs associated with Mediterranean sunshine hoarded here in perpetual dusk. Yet their essential oils offer one luxury winter cannot cancel: aroma. A single sprig crushed between fingers can summon memories of the warm months, a sensory rebellion that keeps despair at bay. A grunt behind us, old Maud, the pickle mistress, heaves a stone lid onto the plum-colored beetroot vat. She's wrapped in 3 shawls and still shivers. She tells us beet brine freezes at a lower point than plain water, so the vat stays liquid longer. But if frost finally conquers, the beets burst, the Lord grows furious, Maud loses her ration. Her solution? Float clay oil lamps atop the brine at dusk, praying the faint heat radiating downward keeps the surface just shy of ice. Sometimes it works. Sometimes the lamp tips, snuffing itself, and the vat is a frozen crimson tomb by dawn. She shrugs. God's will, she mutters, and trudges on. Before we depart, let's examine the ledger hanging from a nail. Ink has congealed in the inkwell. The steward's quill tip is a stalagmite. He tallies every ounce removed. Today, 3 strips of bacon, 1 eel jar, half a wheel of cheese, and issues a wax token to the kitchen in exchange. Lose the token, and the cook faces accusations of theft. Such bureaucracy slows hunger's chaos, but frost nibbles at paper corners, ink bleeds with thaw, so each spring the entire book is recopied. Clerks call it the Great Rewriting, a ritual as predictable as Lent. Time to climb back up. Your thighs burn from crouching, joints protest, frozen in half-bent angles. Step onto the first stair, stone steals remaining heat through your soles. Halfway up you're panting, though lungs feel lined with icicles. Torch breathes hot smoke into your face, but warmth evaporates before contact. You envy saints rumored to radiate inner fire. Alas, we are flesh, not myth. Emerging in the corridor, the temperature feels, could it be, merciful by comparison. A trick, of course. It's still cold enough to make metal stick to lips, but relative comfort is seductive. You might even loosen your cloak clasp. Don't. Sweat now and you'll freeze later, a reminder winter rewards patience, not bravado. Let's part near the kitchen hatch. You smell the morning pottage thickening, tinged with the salt cellar's gifts. Before you duck away to thaw fingers over the hearth, do the modern miracle. Smash that like button into shards, share this frigid journey with a friend who swears their apartment's heating is fine, and drop a comment with your cleverest stay-warm hack. I'll be testing them all while I script our next descent. We step away from the salt cellar's brine-bitten dark and angle down a side corridor seldom swept. Mason's dust powders the floor like ash and muffles each tread. On the right, arrow slits weep crystals. On the left, portraits, faces once vibrant, have dulled beneath candle smoke and frost. Countless winters coax paint to peel, curling like autumn leaves that never fall. We pass a tapestry too stiff with ice to sway. Its wool threads crack softly as we brush by, releasing the faint scent of lanolin trapped for decades. Ahead yawns a portal flanked by hammered iron sconces, unlit to conserve fuel. Beyond lies the laundry court. Imagine sheets on a summer line. Now invert the dream. A stone quadrangle open to the sky, rimmed by low walls to keep out marauding pigs, but nothing bars the wind. The moment we cross the threshold it pounces, a spear straight through 2 tunics and ribs. Flags of linen hang frozen in place, not flapping but rigid, sculpted mid-billow. Some resemble cathedral spires. Others mimic the wave of an unseen hand. A laundress stands knee-deep in snow, breaking stiff shirts over a rail so they'll fold without shattering. Her breath plumes. When it drifts against the fabric, the vapor crystallizes, stitching new frost onto old. She smiles, 3 teeth missing, as we marvel. Better than lice, she rasps. Freezing kills vermin the scalding cauldron never could. There's gratitude even here. Follow her gaze to a wash trough, now an oblong of ice-glazed translucent green from last week's lie. Someone left a wooden paddle inside. The shaft protrudes like Excalibur. Crack lines radiate where the solution shrank. Each morning, hired boys sledgehammer the block into shards for scouring flagstones. They call the fragments soap glass. One slips underfoot during chores and sends more than soap sliding. Wrists twist, skulls split. Lawsuits are inventions centuries away. We dodge jagged pieces strewn like caltrops, skirt the trough, and reach a door half its original height. Wartime starvation forced the carpenter to trim the lower planks for firewood 50 winters ago. Duck through, and instantly the temperature falls again. Sound dampens, air thickens with minerals. We enter the well room. Picture a circular pit 15 feet across, walls slick with quartz veins that glitter like constellations. Ropes, 3, 4, sometimes 6, hang from a wheel overhead, each tied to a bucket the size of a washtub. An elder named Gerbrand tends the mechanism. His beard, white and stiff, appears carved from hoar. He cranks a handle so slowly you suspect enchantment keeps the wheel turning. Water sloshes in unseen darkness below. In January, the surface freezes nightly. Each dawn, Gerbrand lowers an iron spike to fracture the lid, chanting psalms that mingle with metallic clinks, echoing upward. Today, the spike thuds dull, stops halfway. Ice has thickened enough to swallow it. Winter's siege is more insidious here. A castle can outlast arrows, but not thirst. Break the glaze too roughly and shards slump sideways, jamming the bucket. Too gently, and a thin skin refreezes by the next hoist. So Gerbrand improvises, drops a brazier full of coals down the shaft, suspended on a chain. It hovers inches above the disk of ice, hissing, dripping steam, as if the well itself exhales. Minutes later, a crack radiates outward like lightning's photograph. There's a soft, satisfying splash, victory for now. He hauls water quickly. Steam rises until the bucket clears the lip. Midway across the floor, droplets leap onto stone and instantly frost. The bucket sets down. Already a rim of ice creeps up its sides. We sip with cupped palms. The taste? Metal, stone, and triumph. But even this liquid carries risk. Glacial temperature can stun a stomach, provoke cramps lethal to infants and elders. The healer warms her share by burying a cup near the hearth ashes. Luxury by medieval standards. Notice the rope fibers beneath your glove. They're blackened, not burned, but rot-etched. Constant wet freeze cycles unravel hemp faster than summer wear ever could. Every rope has a twin stored overhead. The minute one frays, it's swapped lest a full bucket plunge 80 feet, smashing scattering shards that freeze to razor edges below. Gerbrand personally blesses each replacement in Latin, convinced prayer knots fibers tighter than tar. We ascend again, passing tapestries grown heavier with icy dew, to the clerestory gallery leading to the chapel crypt. This walkway is the castle's coldest artery, funneling drafts between arrow loops like bellows. Torches cannot be trusted. A single ember drifting in the wrong gust might ignite century-old beams, so lanterns burn shielded behind horn panes. Still, wind sneaks around, extinguishing half of them. Your shadow flickers like a candle itself, down a stair narrower than any yet, carved for penitent knees. Walls seep moisture that freezes, forming translucent sheets you could skate upon, were the incline not lethal. We edge sideways. At the bottom, the floor levels onto packed earth riven by ice flowers, delicate feathery crystals that bloom only in constant, near-freezing humidity. They crunch softly, as though the ground whispers, "Here lie the noble dead," sarcophagi of limestone, lids carved with recumbent effigies. The faces wear serene expressions, yet rhyme outlines each eyelid and lip, giving them frosted masks. Candles at head and foot have developed skirts of frozen wax strips, stalagmites of devotion. Brothers of the chantry visit daily to chant souls toward heaven, but breath condenses so heavily it forms a misty veil that hovers waist-high and never dissipates. Locals call it the weeping of saints. Spend hours here, and your own eyelashes acquire pearls of ice you dare not wipe for fear of tearing lashes free. We pause beside the tomb of Lady M. Records omit her name. Tasked with holding a vigil, an acolyte once wrapped himself in a bearskin and knelt all night, reciting psalms. Dawn found him toppled sideways, alive yet frost-blind. Corneas filmed by crystals they say only spring sunshine could melt. He recovered vision weeks later, but kept the shakes every winter thereafter. Monks whisper his story to initiates. Pray hard, but not so hard you forget flesh is mortal. Between coffins stands a simple wooden font containing holy water. It froze solid before Epiphany. Parishioners now chip slivers from the block, letting them melt on tongues as a sacrament. Rumor claims miracles hide where water changes state. Some swear the ice holds visions if backlit. We see only fractures radiating like shattered glass, each line trapping an air bubble, aged by prayer. Our own limbs tremble. It's time to leave the crypt to its quiet. Back up the stair, and note how ascent burns calves but hardly raises body heat. The drafts snatch warmth before it settles. When we emerge into the transept, the nave seems temperate though your breath still ghosts. Here, daylight falls through stained glass depicting Pentecost. In summer, beams paint the floor ruby and gold. Today, colors wash pale, sluggish, as though the sun itself shivers. A friar sweeps frost granules from flagstones. Every stroke rings like sleigh bells. We ask why the glass remains uncovered. He smiles. Even muted, light is mercy. There's theology in that. Hope as insulation. Perhaps the mind heats blood better than firewood does. We return toward the great hall, but a detour demands attention. The smithy, where iron meets ice. Inside, the forge radiates a glow so intense stepping through the door feels sinful. Yet paradox reigns. On the anvil's unused corner, frost forms the instant the smith pauses hammering. Heat lives inches away from cold here, a reminder that medieval winter survival is constant negotiation. The smith quenches a blade, steam roars, flashing white, then particles snow back onto his beard. He laughs, claims he breathes clouds of dragons. Dragons might be warmer. His apprentice tends bellows. The leather cracks at each hinge, another casualty of freeze-thaw rhythm. They grease it nightly with tallow to keep pliant. Otherwise, morning brings a rigid husk. The apprentice admits he sleeps in the forge, curled beside half-dying coals, forfeiting rations of ale to keep embers alive. Few envy him, but few refuse his warmth when he invites them to thaw knotted fingers over the slack tub. Mid-afternoon dies early. Violet twilight seeps through slit windows. The castle braces for darker cold. Kitchen boys sprint barrels of hot water up ladders to pour over hinges on main gates. The metal shrinks and locks, if not coddled. Armorers heat sand in pans, funnel it into gloves and boots to create makeshift hand warmers knights will stash under armpits. Ingenious, yet fleeting. You crave relief. One remedy exists, the communal bathhouse, a half-timbered shed near the outer wall, fed by a hypocaust channel from the forge. It survives more as rumor than fact. Firewood rarely stretches to luxury. But tonight, miraculously, it smolders. We slip inside, darkness punctured by a single torch. A copper kettle hisses atop a brazier, pouring vapor into the room until rafters sweat. A tub, a barrel halved and lined with pitch, holds water uncomfortable to taste, yet sublime to bones. 4 soldiers cram inside, knees to chests, steam-wreathing faces mottled red from heat after weeks of blue. Their laughter feels rebellious, scandalous even. Every gulp of warmth robs winter of authority. They offer space, we decline. Relinquishing layers would mean reconfronting cold with damp skin. Better to watch, learn, promise ourselves such daring, another night. They tell stories. A comrade whose tongue froze to his helmet chin strap. A hound that slept too near the north wall and awoke with paws fused to hoarfrost. A traveling minstrel found beneath the drawbridge arch. Lute strings snapped where frost tensioned them like bowstrings. Humor sharpens on the whetstone of adversity. Back in the great hall, last logs crackle. The Lord's family retires behind thick tapestries. Servants unroll pallets in hierarchical rings from hearth to door. We find our straw vigorously threshed to fluff some warmth, slide in boots and all. No one removes footwear in winter. You'd risk waking to leather slabs frozen into unnatural shapes. A steward circulates, doling out nightcap, thin ale mulled with nutmeg shaved so sparingly a mouse would starve. Still, the spice teases memory of mulled wine enjoyed on feast days. You clutch the mug, savoring the illusion. Silence settles, pierced by sporadic coughs. Somewhere a baby whines, the mother hums, the lullaby weaves into roar of wind above. Your eyelids droop. But before sleep claims us, one final chore. Clobber that like button until sparks fly, stoke the comments with tales of your chilliest adventure, and share this video with the friend who boasts they love winter. Let's test that bravado. If you're eager for the 4th circle of medieval cold, where we trek beyond the wall to the charcoal burner's camp and learn how night frost can make bread shatter, type, bring the blizzard below. Until then, tuck in tight, dream of July, and remember, spring is merely rumor, but stories keep hearts beating till the thaw. The portcullis groans as the winch creaks a grudging notch. No trumpets here, only the squeal of frozen iron on stone and the muffled thud when it kisses packed snow. The drawbridge chains weep icicles. Each link clinks like a chime as we step onto planks, so keen with frost they glitter moon blue. Look down between the slats. The moat lies skinless, water stilled under a lid of black ice marbled with white veins. Cracked already, yawning fissures that mirror the sky's star splatter. That's where kitchen refuse freezes, floats, and becomes pickings for wolves bold enough to venture onto the glaze. They do nightly, silhouettes stalking the moat's oval like clock hands. We move before they appear. Beyond the bridge, the track bends into pine dark. The forest breathes hoarfrost. Boughs sag under weight, the color of pewter. Step softly, or snow will trumpet your arrival. Breath fogs lantern glass. The wick inside sputters, choking on its own fumes. Even flame must labor here. The charcoalers choose low ridges for their hearths. Ground drains better, snowpacks less heavy, and smoke threads through trees instead of roiling under them. We spy the first mound by smell before sight. A sweet reek of sap set aflame and muffled with soil, like burnt sugar in a bitter pot. Draw closer, and you see domes of earth 6 feet tall, pocked by vent holes. Each covers a stacked pyramid of beech logs arranged with monastic precision. The mound smolders, never burns. Starve wood of air and you make charcoal, black bread for the castle's forges and kitchens alike. A figure emerges from shadows, short, barrel-chested, beard clotted with frost beads. He lifts a palm in greeting, palm wrapped in wool so grimy it might once have been white. No time for pleasantries. He prods a vent with an iron rod, listening for the whisper of gas. Too loud, and combustion races, ruins the batch. Too soft, and the fire dies, leaving only half-cooked lumps brittle as slate. He adjusts by instinct, then grins tooth black from soot. Good night for a warm job. He jokes, but see his eyebrows iced solid. His lips are cracked. Warm is relative. He leads us around the ring of mounds. Between them, narrow paths pulse with radiant heat from below and razor wind from above. A paradox corridor where your calves sweat while ears ache. Charcoalers use this to their advantage. They dry soaked boots by straddling vent holes, yet frostbite still finds toes once they walk 5 paces away. We stop at their shelter, a hut of woven spruce limbs daubed with clay, roof weighted by stones. Inside, ember-rich coals glow in a pit ringed by curved benches of split logs. The walls shimmer with tar and steam, sweating like animals. 4 workers hunch over mugs of birch sap beer, thin, sour, but alive with a faint hiss of fermentation. They motion us close. Space is a luxury measured by degrees Celsius. Sit and feel the burn seep into bones, long chilled. Conversation starts with coughs, the dry bark unique to lungs bathed daily in wood smoke. They tell of last winter's storm, drifts so high they tunneled from mound to mound like moles, poking vent holes with sticks to keep chimneys breathing. One man slept too near a mound's flank. Gas overcame him, and he woke outside, half buried in snow, dragged free by his mates who recognized the silence of a body gone slack. The talk shifts to wolves. Charcoal pits attract them, smell of roasting marrow hidden beneath soil cracks. Wolves circle beyond firelight, eyes twin lanterns. Charcoalers string bells on trip lines. In the lull between one vent check and the next, those bells might chime. When they do, every man grabs a flaming brand and charges into the dark, yelling curses ugly enough to shame a bishop. Wolves retreat, but never far. A boy passes around a cloth bundle, bread crusts baked days ago, now stone hard and dotted with frost sparkles. Each man dips a crust into a pot of lard kept near coals. The fat softens it, adds calories. We follow suit. Grease hits tongue, and warmth blooms all the way to fingertips. Remember, in this century, fat is currency dearer than coin. Soldiers desert for a cup of dripping. Peasants trade secrets for a marrow bone. The castle steward visits monthly to pay these burners, mostly in salt or ale, but sometimes slips a cured ham. That ham disappears within an hour, bones hurled onto the mound where flames lick them clean. A lull. Someone hums a chant, low, repetitive, like bellows breathing. It's a tally song. Each verse marks an hour until the mound's ready to unseal. They sing to keep time when sandglass grains freeze mid-fall. You lean back, gaze up through smoke hole. Stars gleam, breath drifts heavenward, joins the galaxy for a blink. But we promise to learn how cold can cook bread colder. The head burner, Alderic, gestures outside. Show you the ice case, he says. We follow. He leads to a trough carved into a rocky declivity and now filled with water. Except it's no ordinary water. It's brine leached from last year's meat barrels, poured here when spoiled. Salty enough to bleed iron, it freezes at a lower point than fresh water. Yet tonight, even this brine has crusted over, glass smooth. Alderic cracks it with an elbow, scoops slush onto a plank, lays a slice of dough atop. In less than a minute, the dough stiffens, rime racing across its skin like frost devouring a windowpane. He lifts it, taps wood, the loaf rings like pottery. Stone bread, he declares. Some nights they feed it to the fire, an offering to keep coals steady. Other nights they gnaw it, trusting teeth over hunger. Sudden wind plows through clearing, snuffs lanterns, rattles mound walls. Sparks spurt from vent holes and crimson fountains, swirling into sky as if the camp itself exhales souls. Seams of earth collapse inward, danger sign. Alderic curses, grabs a spade, slaps fresh soil over the crack, while another shovels snow to smother escaping flame. If oxygen rushes in, the whole mound could flare. Months of labor vanished in one whoosh of orange. You help, piling snow until palms numb beyond pain. When crisis passes, men laugh, nervous, triumphant, and slap your back, leaving soot handprints that steam on your cloak. Hours blur. Gray pre-dawn halos treetops. The mounds settle, sighing like slumbering beasts. It's time to return before castle gates close for morning prayers. Charcoalers press a token on you, a finger-length charcoal stick, smooth as satin. Proof you braved the kiln, Alderic grins. Pocket it. One day you'll sketch stories with this carbon. The trek back is quieter. The forest seems to respect your initiation. Still, listen. Ice cracks distant, wood warps under frost tension, an unseen owl hoots. Snow beneath boots squeals, a frequency only deepest cold produces, called singing snow. Some claim it heralds colder days. Others call it angels sharpening blades. Castle towers rise pale against mauve sky. We cross the bridge, stamping feet to shake off powder. Guards raise brows at soot-stained faces but wave you in. They know the charcoaler's mark. Inside, the courtyard echoes with clatter. Grooms breaking ice from horse trough rims. scullery maids whacking frozen turnips till they clink loose. Smoke columns curl from chimneys where last night's charcoal already feeds hearths, heat purchased by lungs and calluses you witnessed. The great hall smells of oat gruel and pine smoke. Servants ladle bowls, stir with spoons crusted from yesterday. We claim a bench near the fire. As steam wetlands cheeks, you realize your cloak still emits that sweet pine tar fragrance. A reminder warmth is never free. It trails its own scent. We ghost through the hall while embers still blink ruby in their ash beds. The porter waves, beard rimed white, too chilled to speak. Past the buttery, we reach the spiral stair corkscrewing toward the bell tower. Each step has a shallow depression, from centuries of feet, and in winter from ice-nibbling stone. Step carefully. Patches glisten where last evening's torch drips hardened and merged with sleet creeping under the door. One misplant and you'll ride 30 steps on your spine, arriving in the crypt ahead of schedule. Halfway up, the air shifts. It's no longer merely cold. It's thin, the sort that steals breath before your lungs receive it. Your lantern halo shrinks, its flame cowering from draft fingers poking the loopholes. The stair emerges onto a landing the width of a coffin lid. Here the wall slits widen into open arches. We step through, and the world pulls heat straight through our chests. The tower platform is a crown of crenelles crusted white. Ropes leading to the bells hang stiff as ship masts, icicles stitched along their twists like teeth. In the center, a squat shed shelters the watchman's brazier, if smoke can be called shelter. Meet Alaric, eyes red-rimmed, skin raw. He's been up since the second watch, pacing, striking flint to keep coals awake. He salutes with 2 fingers, 3 broke years ago, healed crooked, and now pain him so fiercely in frost that he binds them to the bell rope for warmth. Pinned dragons, he jokes, the rope scales stealing body heat instead of breathing fire. He invites us to share the brazier. Twigs sputter, emitting more sparks than flames. He feeds it fistfuls of charcoal nuggets, the very ones you helped birth last night. They hiss like wet cats, then glow. Patterns of crimson dance on our faces, but the wind kidnaps comfort before it settles. Up here cold feels carnivorous. With dawn comes the lauds bell. Alaric braces, gloved fist hammering the rope. Metal above answers, a brazen bellow rolling over rooftops, across fields now glazed white into forest hollows. Yet listen, a peculiar aftertone like glass cracking. The bell's bronze contracts in cold, warping pitch. Too swift a peal, and the metal, brittle as sugar, might fissure. Monks once blamed demons for a bell that split. Smiths blamed January. Alaric knows both stories. He eases his rhythm, counting heartbeats between pulls. While he rings, we lean over the parapet. The moat below is a mirror fractured by footprints. Wolves again, pacing last night's edge. Beyond, the charcoal mounds smoke lazy spirals, dawn tinting them rose. To the west, tents of peasants queue against the gate. Hunger draws them, seeking grain or work, patching roofs gashed by snow weight. The line's shuffling churns ghost plumes from 100 mouths. A note changes. Alaric pauses. He heard a splice in the bell's voice, thin, almost silent. He fingers a crack along the clapper seam, newborn, invisible in warm months. Another winter or two, he murmurs, and it'll cleave like old bread. Replacement bronze must journey weeks by cart. Until then, he moderates every ring, a musician playing an instrument doomed to die. We retreat down the stair, knees aching from chill. On the ground floor, the healer Dalba sets up an improvised infirmary. Frostbite triage day. Benches hold castle folk with pale fingertips, noses black-flecked. Dalba hums while stirring a pot of warm ale spiked with ginger, an extravagance urged by necessity. She ladles sips into clay cups. Victims cradle them like chicks. Gently, she thaws fingers in bowls of tepid water infused with rose oil. Too hot, tissue blisters. Too cold, nothing revives. She counts aloud, 1 miserere then out. Time measured by prayer, the medieval metronome. She shows us her tools. Goose quill probes to test sensation, fat salve, strips of hair hide, supple even frozen, wrapped around digits to keep salve from freezing off. Some she must lance, blister roofs pricked with a pine needle held over flame until it blushes, then plunge before cooling can snap it. Pus steams when exposed, an eerie sight, disease given breath on frigid air. Watch a young scullion approach, cheeks purpled. Yesterday she fetched pails from the well, sloshed water-kissed skin, instantly icing, welding bucket rim to her jaw. Reflex she jerked, tearing flesh. Now Dalba applies honey thick as resin. It will crystallize but seal wound against worse. The girl winces yet smiles. Better than night shift, she quips. Humor, an immune response to despair. Dalba directs us to haul fresh snow inside. A paradox, bring cold into warmth. but she packs it around swollen limbs to slow blood before gradual reheat. Treat the freeze with freeze, she says. Medieval medicine, contradiction harnessed by faith and observation. Outside again, we cross to the garderobe tower. Latrines in summer reek, in winter they petrify. The chute, a vertical shaft dropping to the moat, now hosts stalactites of frozen ordure, a grotesque basilica. Servants toss ash to prevent full clog, yet once a week men with picks break the pillar lest it grow high enough to meet seated flesh. One slip, and frost-slick ladders send them tumbling into excretal catacombs. Castle legend tells of a trespassing thief trapped this way, frozen, entombed upright until thaw, when stench warned all. Still, cold offers one mercy. Smell sleeps. You breathe through scarf and scent little. The true hazard is contact. Wooden seats bite skin. Folk warm them by laying a flat stone on top, then pocketing it to reuse. A trade network of hot stones circulates between hearth and privy. From stench to spice, we proceed to the pantry, where cook Auric inspects spice coffers. Cloves clump like gravel, cinnamon splinters, saffron threads snap brittle. He grinds each in a mortar nestled against embers to coax aroma. These spices do more than flavor. Pepper stimulates blood, warming from within. Apothecaries prescribe pepper broth for frost-stiff limbs. So Auric chooses pepper lavishly today, risking the steward's glare. Better muttered curses than hypothermic nights. He shows us winter's trick, oil stores. Olive oil turns cloudy thick as soap. Pour too fast and bottle shatters from temperature shock. They set flasks near the kitchen vent to coax liquefaction. Meanwhile, tallow stands proud, a stalwart. Candles burn quicker, though. Heat melts core faster than drafts can cool, so wicks drown unless trimmed constant. The chandler recruits children, nimble-fingered, to snip wicks every quarter hour by sandglass. Sandglass, speak of that. Common hourglasses fail in frost. Sand grains clump with moisture. Timekeeping shifts to water clocks moved close to hearth or to notched candles. At matins, the prior scraped frost from a marked taper to read progress. Wax ridges telling minutes. Last night, a draft reset his gauge, wax cooled uneven, warp creeping into measure. Thus morning prayers began 15 minutes late. Scandal. The cold controls even schedules. Now let's step outside castle walls again, east this time, to the ice pits. These are trenches dug in autumn, filled with pond ice blocks layered between straw. Summer kitchens prize such troves, but winter uses them inversely. Clay jars of fresh water lowered in by rope to keep from freezing above ground. We watch a burly squire Aldwine descend a ladder, voice echoing in crystalline vault. He swaps yesterday's thawed jar for new, hoisting it up by pulley. The jar's surface steams, condensation freezes mid-flight, giving it a sugar glaze. When he emerges, eyelashes bristle white, he blinks snowflakes. Aldwine laughs. Winter writes poetry on everything. He tells of training yard drills halted because swords adhered to gauntlets. Solution, dip hilts in tallow and ash mixture for grip. The master-at-arms now stocks buckets of the blend, calling it wolf's glue. Soldiers coat boot soles with it before patrol. Traction improves, but hall floors blacken. Chamberlain fumes, soldiers shrug. We witness patrol next. 2 guards pace the curtain wall. Chainmail hidden beneath wool surcoats still radiates chill into ribs. They stuff wisps of raw wool between hauberk and arming doublet. Improvised insulation. One guard shares advice. Shift fingers constantly inside mittens to pump blood like bellows. He demonstrates a silent chant, thumb to each fingertip in prayer count. Repeat or freeze. Below, the courtyard well sees new measure. The bucket's rope now marked with metal rings. Ice film thickens unpredictably. Ring at surface means bucket may strike ice before water, risking crack. They lower a heated iron hoop first. Its sizzle tells thickness. Medieval sonar of sorts. Evening slides in early. We convene in chapel for compline, final prayers. Choir boys breathe mist. Hymns vibrate through icicle chandeliers that form along eaves, tinkling accompaniment. Father Berengar preaches resilience. Cold merely sharpens the quill of memory. He urges gratitude. The freeze deters siege. Disease flees slow. Voices rise, collective warmth stronger than brazier. After prayers, castle folk line up at the steward's table for nightly doling of silver thimble, a dram of distilled rye. Illegal in many shires, but frost forgives laws. The dram ignites throat, spurring giggles that fog the air. People clap each other's shoulders, friction as heater. Our palate awaits near hearth. But tonight a special precaution. Foot wraps soaked in warm vinegar, believed to invite blood downward. Myths hold weight in cold. We wind cloths, feel prickle. Sleep claims quickly. The first breath greets us before we even leave the dormitory. A faint metallic tang, as if someone scraped a sword across stone. That's frost forming inside the iron-strapped doors. Moisture drawn from warm lungs flashed solid before it can land. Servants call it ghost polish. Each morning, they buff hinges with mutton tallow to keep pins turning. By evening, the door shines silver again, as if haunted by an armor-clad custodian. We step into the passage leading toward the smithy. Here the walls run slick with condensation that froze mid-drip, stalactites no longer reserved for caves. Torches sputter in their sconces. The flames burn blue at the tips, a sure sign the air is stingy with warmth. One torch guts out just as we pass, dropping a tangle of frozen pitch that shatters on the flags like fragile pottery. A page boy will sweep it come sunrise, collecting the shards into a timber box. Pitch scraps feed tomorrow's forge lighting fire. Nothing wasted in a winter that takes more than it gives. At the stairs we meet the first watch of the porters, returning from the well in pairs, shoulders yoked under a pole with 2 buckets. They work in twos for speed, dip, haul, run. Still, a skin of ice glazes each bucket by the time they reach the hallway. The trick, they explain, is to swirl the water constantly with a ladle carved from applewood, never letting the surface stiffen. If they stop even one prayer's length, a skein of ice thickens enough to trap the ladle, and they'll spend precious minutes prying it loose, bare fingers sapping heat to the wood. Their burdens slosh as they climb a side stair toward the solar, where the Lord's family will soon wash faces. The porters move like dancers rehearsed. Only once do they falter when a draft knifes through the arrow slit above. In that instant, lace-thin frost crystals spring onto the water, fanning out in fractal trees before our eyes. The porter curses, sets the buckets down, breaks the newborn skin with a punch of the ladle, then strides on. Winter sculpts constantly, and every castle hand becomes an unwilling apprentice. Turn left and we hit the smithy's outer door. Heat from inside pulses like a heart. Open it and a roar spills out, bellows groaning, sparks bursting, hammer clanging a war rhythm on anvil. The gulf between temperatures is so violent that your eyelashes mist, then freeze. Blacksmith Rothric shouts greeting through soot-speckled whiskers. His apron, crusted with frost when he walked in before dawn, now bleeds rivulets of melted ice that steam and hiss when they strike the anvil face. He lifts a red-hot horseshoe with tongs, dunking it in a barrel whose rim is ringed with ice. The water explodes into a cloud, then seals over again instantly. "Quench and seal," he says. "Winter does half my work." But it also sabotages. Bars of iron snap if struck too cold. He must keep billets nestled in charcoal, even when not forging. He shows us racks of glowing rods arranged like candles in a candelabrum. One apprentice's duty tonight is simply to rotate them, ensuring no bar loses its internal glow. Another fans the bellows, though outside air is so dense that each pull feels like lifting a boulder with lungs. You notice a stack of brittle sword blanks on the floor, rejects. Tiny star-shaped fractures snake through steel. Rothric ran them under the quenching barrel too soon, trusting the usual count, forgetting the water's bite is harsher now. He'll melt them back tomorrow. Wasted coal, wasted midnight hours. He shrugs. Winter is a harsh instructor, but its lessons forge memory sharper than any blade. He beckons us to an adjoining alcove where mail hauberks hang on wooden mannequins. Each ring is coated in a filigree of rime, and as the forge heat pushes deeper, beads of water drip from thousands of links, pattering like rain on tin. A squire appears with a tub of powdered chalk mixed with lampblack. He tosses handfuls over the mail. The mixture absorbs moisture, then is brushed off, preventing rust. It's a never-ending task. By the time he circles back to Hauberk 3, Hauberk 1 will glisten anew. Rust in winter creeps quicker than mold in summer. We move on, following the stone passage to the kennels. Dogs are castle alarms, hunters and companions, but winter tests even their mettle. Inside we find the kennel master Signy, kneeling by a mastiff whose paws bleed, cracked by ice. She mixes goose fat with powdered yarrow, smearing the salve into each fissure. The dog licks her mitten tail, beating slow thanks. Around them, straw bedding steams faintly. She's ladled hot rock salt under the straw to keep damp at bay. Each night she exhumes the salt, bakes it on a pan near the forge, dries it, and returns it. "Turn the salt, turn the season," she says, a talisman phrase. She points to racks overhead, rawhide thongs stiffened into hoops. That's tomorrow's work. Soak in tepid water, then plait into winter collars lined with fleece. Dogs that must patrol the battlements can freeze by the throat to their own chains if collars remain bare. 2 hounds already bear raw rings where skin tore during a sudden lunge against metal. Dogs yowl. The steward frowns at blood on stone. Signy sews. We exit by the postern gate to cross the yard. Snow squeaks, fine powder understamped by countless boots so that it compacts into gleaming marble. Lantern light twinkles off it like mica. A figure ahead hammers pegs into the snow around a pyramid of pine poles. It's the ice artist, if the castle boasts such, Master Berthold, tasked with building windbreaks. He spays blankets over poles, then packs wet straw at the base. By dawn, the straw will freeze into a wall, catching blasts before they whip across the yard. Temporary, yet every hour spared from windburn is welcome. He tells us he learned the trick from Eastern merchants who freeze camel hair with river slush to build quick shelters on the steppe. In return, he shared a Western trick, stuffing mittens with nettle fiber, itches in summer, insulates in winter when boiled and dried. Cross-cultural trade of survival hacks, long before written handbooks. Near the kitchen garden, brown lumps of frozen soil, nothing more, stands the bee house, shuttered tight since Michaelmas. Tonight, the apiarist, Dame Roswin, listens for telltale buzzing through a wooden trumpet pressed to the hive wall. If the cluster hum has fallen silent, the colony is dead, starved or frozen. She places her ear, waits. A low thrum answers. She smiles. To keep bees alive, she needs candied honey bricks mixed with beetroot syrup, slides them inside through a slit. The bees will inch toward it, living off crystals until April thaw. They dream loud, she whispers. The colder it gets, the louder they dream, reminding each other they're alive. A lesson we could borrow. The castle chapel bells toll sext, midnight. That means ghosts, if you believe turret gossip, are now free to walk. We head for the crypt to test the theory. Down spiral steps slick with chalky frost, someone sprinkles crushed eggshell to give grip. Air chills deeper. Beneath the chapel, vaults arch above tomb slabs. Here temperature never strays. Winter and summer feel cousins. Stone drinks cold when the season begins and holds it like a miser. Touch a slab and feel the heart of January, even in July. We settle by a candle stub burning at a shrine for St. Blaise, patron of throats. Bats cluster in ceiling cracks, wings wrapped tight. One stirs, squeaks, resettles. They hibernate through ice, but crypt candles rouse them. Still they doze again, preferring death-like sleep to the frigid hunt outside. Monks used to harvest bat guano for manuscripts' ink. It deepened pigment, but in winter the guano also turns to brittle rock. Scribes complain of dull knives trying to scrape it. Footsteps echo. Brother Matherin descends carrying a brass water jug. He fills a shallow bowl before a tomb, muttering Latin. For the thirst of the resting, he says. In winter he leaves water nightly. The bowl freezes, forming a glass lid over stone. Come Lent, he chips the ice, drips thaw onto medicine herbs to strengthen their virtue. Science? Perhaps faith wearing winter's mask. We retrace steps to the granary loft. This is a warehouse of size. Grain dries in sacks hung from beams to avoid rodents whose whiskers freeze stuck to burlap if they try climbing. The steward Cyric counts sacks aloud, his tally chalked on rafters. He fears erasure by condensation, so he marks twice. Once with lime, once with charcoal. Lime lines flare white by lamplight, charcoal ones glimmer. Redundancy is the mother of survival. Across from grain hangs meat. Sides of pork sparkle, outer layers crystallized into a protective rind. Cyric taps them. Sound should be dull, not hollow. Hollow means rot inside, pockets of spoil. The cold prevents bacteria, but not always. If daytime cooks stoke kitchen ovens too hot, warmth flows up venting shafts, thawing top layers. Cyric curses cooks as often as rats. To keep temperature steady, he instructs pages to open louvers at dawn, let in fresh cold, then shutter by dusk to quell drafts. Granary becomes a wind harp, louvers humming with gusts. In one corner lies the cheese cage. Wheels of sheep's milk cheese age slower now, rinds turning stone hard. Cheesemonger Beata drills tiny holes, fills them with wine must, prevents cracking, adds flavor. She admits winter cheese will taste sharper, more bitter as proteins fold under chill. Knights crave it as relish, peasants find it near inedible. Taste divides classes like moat fences. Climb yet again, this castle is all stairs, to the herb loft. Bundles of sage, rosemary, juniper hang crisp. Apothecary Luitgard stands amid them, distilling spruce tips into resinous oil over a brazier. She collects condensation on copper lids, scraping frozen droplets into vials. This frost distillate she sells as cure for chilblains. Nobles swear by it. In truth, its sting diverts the mind from pain, placebo etched in ice. She shows us a rarity. Oranges, greenish, wrinkled, arrived 3 weeks ago from Iberia in barrels packed with snow. Most rotted, a few survived. She slices one, juicy still, and tucks cloves into the peel. Hung above a child's cradle, it wards cough demons. Practical or not, the smell alone lifts spirits, reminding nostrils of sun-baked terraces and salted wind. Hope, vacuum sealed in rind. It's late second watch when we sneak into the armory, last unexplored quadrant. Here helmets rest upside down, each wearing a cap of frost so thick they resemble monks' tonsures. Weapon racks groan, wood shrinks, metal swells. The master of arms, Sir Everard, demonstrates a nightly ritual. He coats sword blades with goose grease, then lays a single strand of horsehair across each edge. Come dawn, he checks if hair's snapped. If so, water crept under grease, froze, expanded, warping metal. Blades failing the test are warmed near a brazier, wiped, re-greased. A sword that cracks in battle kills its master first, he mutters. Sir Everard also stores arrows with heads buried in beeswax blocks to prevent rust. Shafts warp. He realigns them by running along a trough of hot sand, eyeing straightness against lantern flame. Sand cools quick. Assistants rotate brazier coals underneath to keep the trough sluicing heat. A metronome of maintenance. Now to the heart of night, the bathhouse. Few venture there after vespers. Water freezes in pipes, steam becomes treacherous mist. Yet a bathman, tolls, persists, fueling fires under immense copper cauldrons. He hopes to draw one tub by midnight, for the countess plagued by knots in her shoulders. We find him swinging a sledge at ice locking the drain. Sparks fly off iron grate, ice splinters scatter. Finally, water gurgles, a sluggish giant. He kneels, feeling the metal. His palm burns despite gloves. The castle invests half a woodlot for one hot bath. But morale flows from small luxuries, he argues. Outside the bathhouse, clotheslines support linens stiff as doors. Laundry maids wait with clubs to beat sheets, fracturing frost so fabric may flex enough to fold. They smash, pause, flip, smash again, a percussion echoing like distant drums. One maid hums along, turning labor into rhythm. Her breath condenses on the sheet, immediately icing. She beats again. Endless cycle. Past midnight, the carpenter's yard still flickers. Carpenters bend ash planks near fire to craft runners for winter sledges, easier than wagons on snow-clogged tracks. They soak planks in brine first. Salt water lowers freeze point, allowing wood fibers to slip. Steam wreathes their faces, turning beards into coral. Nearby, coopers band casks with heated iron hoops. Hoops contract violently when meeting cold staves, sealing joints tight. One hoop snaps, flinging sparks. An apprentice yelps as metal kisses his forearm. The master smears snow on the burn, then cold mud, saying earth absorbs fire quicker than water. Folk medicine, yet the sting fades. The cock crows, a sound strangled by chill, but South Tower rooster always jumps the gun. Still an hour to dawn. We pause on the wall walk. Stars fade into lead-colored sky. Below, movement. Peasants trudge in, sledges piled with firewood tithed to the castle. Their breaths join in a low mist river curling through gatehouse arch. The guard rubs hands, greeting not of hospitality but of friction heat. As we watch, a commoner collapses, face-planting snow. Others rush, we hurry down. The man's cloak is drenched, he slipped crossing a thaw-crust brook. Wet cloth is death. The healer Dalba arrives, orders his cloak cut away before it refreezes to skin. She wraps him in dogskin blankets from the kennels, pours pepper ginger wine between blue lips. She and we form a wall blocking wind. 10 minutes pass, eyelids twitch. He lives, for now. Dalba thanks us, chalks tally on her ledger. 9th saved this month. Finally, pale dawn breaks. Kitchen chimneys belch. Breakfast broth beckons. We join the shuffle to the hall. Steam from cauldrons wavers overhead like banners. Oat gruel thickened with marrow, dotted with dried cherries, the cook's attempt at comfort. The spoon scalds tongue, relief courses spine. Around us, faces blossom color. While we eat, minstrels tune lutes whose strings twang strangely. Catgut tightens overnight, risking snap. They warm strings over candles, humming scales. Music must go on. Courtly reputation depends as much on elegance as survival. The steward, watching, claps for silence. Snow buckets half empty, he announces, meaning charcoal stores. He dispatches another party, kitchen hands this time, to the burners' camp. They groan but obey. You and I exchange glances. We've walked that path and know its pain. Yet note, everyone shoulders someone else's burden sooner or later. Winter is the great equalizer. Titles thaw faster than ice. As bowls empty, a hush settles. Weariness pulled over shoulders like another blanket. But you, kind viewer, must not grow comfortable. Stoke the digital hearth. Smash like, seed the comments with a frost memory or a tip modern science forgot, and invite companions to huddle here next part. If your spirit still kindles curiosity, if you want to follow the sledges through blinding white into forests where snow packs so deep even echoes sound muffled, write Snowdrift below. That single word muscles the drawbridge for our seventh and final vigil. A mittened fist thuds on the outer gate and the portcullis collars its chains with a dull clang. Time to ride out with the sledges. Your breath leaves in a comet tail. Snow swallows it whole. The gate guard raises a thumb-sized lamp, its oil thick as syrup now, and studies faces one by one, searching for the smallest tremor that might betray frostbite. The steward nods. The chains rattle again, iron teeth unclasp from the frozen threshold. Out we go. The sledges groan like waking beasts, runners rasping across rutted ice. Each is piled chin-high with charcoal sacks, barrels of salted beans, and bundles of juniper destined for outlying hamlets. Supplies keep loyalty warm, the Lord insists. Generous wagons travel farther than soldiers ever could in weather like this. 5 draft horses huff plumes that spiral up and snap apart. Their manes wear armor of frost beads, each strand glistening starlight, even though sunrise lurks 2 hours away. We march alongside the first sledge, so close that its stacked barrels block the wind. Still, cold creeps through wool, through linen, through the thin hope you carry in your chest. You remember Dalba's warning, keep moving or you'll belong to the road. So you fix eyes on the lantern swinging from the driver's post. Watch it carve a gold tunnel through swirling flakes, and you count steps. 50, breathe long. 50, shrug shoulders. 50, wiggle toes. Behind us, the castle dwindles to a charcoal smear on a parchment-white horizon. Its towers pierce a band of bruised sky. Yet as distance grows, something curious happens. The sky brightens at the edges, reflecting snow's own faint luminescence. Even darkness can't blacklist winter's glitter. Our route plunges into the pine wood. Tree limbs sag with snow so heavy that when one gives, entire avalanches tumble in muffled roars. It happens twice in the first mile. The drivers tip heads in silent prayer each time, lashes blinking ice dust. We crunch past a snag where owls once nested, now just a bleached claw of bark. A sentry calls halt, all listen. From distant undergrowth, a hollow snap. Branch or boar. Wolves would pad softer. The captain unlashes a torch. Its pitchy flame nipped blue by air and raises it. A dozen eyes shimmer amber behind brush, then vanish. Boar it was, or deer. We press on. Easier to think about frostbite than fear. Your fingers are numb inside double mittens stuffed with hair fur. You test them by pinching. Sensation dull, like pressing someone else's skin. Dalba taught a trick. Press a fingernail until it pales, then watch how fast color returns. You try. Nothing. Blood's reluctance is the first bell of frostbite. You tuck hands beneath armpits and jog a dozen paces until warmth seeps back like hearth light creeping under a door. Relief. Ahead, the lead sledge veers around a drift sculpted into a serpent's spine. Its driver curses at a runner that bites deep, stuck. Men heap spruce boughs under it for traction. Winter's green remains pliant when everything else is stone. 3 heaves, a cracking pop, and the sledge lunges free, showering us with ice splinters. 1 shard slices your cheek, blood beads crimson against pallor, then freezes before it can slide. A badge of survival. We stop at the charcoal burners' camp mid-forest. It resembles a village of ancient barrows rather than living men. Mounds of earth-rise kilns radiate faint heat through crusty hides of snow. Burly burners emerge, coats stitched with soot. They greet us with steaming birch bark cups of pine needle brew, resinous, smoky, almost hot. Your first sip flares nostrils, chases cold back an inch. Barter begins. Barrels for billets, beans for briquettes, gossip for laughter. One burner displays a stump of his thumb, sheared by frost last winter when he tried to wipe sweat with a bare hand and skin fused to his axe. He tells the tale like a tavern joke. We laugh too loudly. Laughter keeps jaws limber. Supplies traded, we harness fresh teams. Small, shaggy mountain horses hardy as myths. Their breath coats their own nostrils in shimmering lace. Handlers clear the ice with hooked nails lest airflow fail. We tie scarves high across faces and step back onto the trail, now angling north toward the quarry where masons harvest blocks even in this season. Stone never sleeps, the steward says. The road climbs. Snow deepens until it swallows calf, knee, thigh. Men with shovels stride ahead, carving trenches. Each shovelful squeals, a sound like steel drawn across slate. One man snaps the handle mid-scoop. The wood's grain, infiltrated by frost, shatters like sugar glass. He curses, grabs another from the sledge, and digs on. We crest a ridge. The quarry yawns beneath, an amphitheater of white terraced slopes. Masons chip marble with iron picks whose heads glow dull cherry from brazier reheats. Chips leap, freeze midair into glitter before dusting the pit. They stack blocks, slide them on sledges greased with pig lard that solidifies minutes after application, creating a frictionless crust. Physics becomes prayer here. Every movement obeys laws you feel but cannot see. We deliver charcoal. In return, masons gift cut stone for fortress repairs. Loading begins. Each block lowered by pulley, the rope's hemp fibers grown so cold they feel glassy. Boys sprinkle warm sand onto knots lest they shear. Even speech grows brittle. Someone jokes that words freeze between teeth and drop to shatter. Conversations break into single-syllable grunts to save warmth. An hour later, wagons creak southward, heavier but lower in wind. Stone is a loyal ballast. The steward orders a new route home, skirting river flats said to be frozen enough for smooth passage. The river's name is Hushed Yoke, earned each winter when ice binds its banks so tight it can carry whole herds. Still, crossing is a dice roll, weighted by courage. We reach its edge at dusk. Ice stretches from bank to bank like milky glass. The lead horse snorts, hooves hesitating on the slick. The driver tosses a log forward. It bounces, skids, rests, no crack. A second test, he kneels, presses ear to ice. Deep below, water moans, a whale's faraway lament. Satisfied, he waves onward. Halfway across, a hairline fissure zigzags under the third sledge, a spiderweb racing beneath the ice skin. Men freeze, ironically. The captain bellows, "Don't stop." Momentum spreads weight. Stillness makes daggers. Drivers lash, sledges trot. The crack slows, halts. We breathe again, breath rising as one great cloud that sails northward like the soul of the river itself. On the far bank, birch trees shake drifts like dancers flinging cloaks. We enter their arcade, relieved yet fatigued. The steward declares a halt for hot wine, spiced with rowan and honey, heated over a brazier carried on a sledge like holy fire. Mugs pass. The taste scorches tongues numb hours ago. Faces pinken, talk revives. One wagoner recites a poem about frost demons sharpening icicles into arrows. Another counters with a bawdy verse of girls knitting warmth from lovers. Whiskers. Laughter ricochets among trees, startling a murder of crows whose wing beats flutter snow into sparkling confetti. Night swallows the last charcoal ember sky glow, but we press on by starlight and lantern. Travelers' lore claims stars look bigger and cold because frost scrubs the sky clean. Perhaps, but we know they look closer because Earth shrinks in winter. Every footprint a dent in its crust. Hours later, castle torches appear, flickering gold halos in black. The gate warden's horn booms and walls echo like giant ribs. Portcullis grinds up, sledges clatter through. Courtyard thrums with organized chaos. Stable boys whisk horses away. Laborers hoist stone to hoists. Kitchen lads retrieve barrels of beans with mittened hands. Steam billows from every mouth. Exhalations weave and knot, making the air appear alive. Inside the great hall, trestle tables groan under trenchers of venison stew thick as mud. Today's hunt rewarded though arrows snap brittle in the cold. We slurp, marrow warms bones. You notice the tingling pain in thawing fingers, pins and needles of life returning. Across the table, the mason master massages his palm where pick handle fused, leaving splinters of ice under skin. He grimaces, then smiles into his cup. After meal, minstrel Alisoun plucks her lute. Strings survived, though one ribbed with hoarfrost all day, now resonates a melancholy harmonic. She sings of Saint Erasmus, guiding sailors through frozen fog by torchlight. Voices join, floorboards vibrate, air thickens with sonic warmth. The steward rises, taps his mug for silence. He thanks every pair of hands, from smith to stable girl. He declares tomorrow a feast of Candlemas, even if calendar disagrees, on grounds that extra candles shrink winter faster. Cheering erupts. Somewhere a page flips headfirst off a bench, too dizzy with mead. Laughter lifts rafters, but not all attend the revels. Dalba's infirmary bustles still. The porter who watched gates all day arrives with cheeks black-blotted. Early frostbite. She slices dead flesh so new may grow. He bites leather, eyes wet but proud. Two children shuffle in, one barefoot. Their shoes burned when they strayed too close to smithy coals seeking heat. Dalba fits them with rag boots of hair pelt and willow bark stiffened in beeswax. They grin, pain forgotten by novelty. You stand to help, ferrying buckets of warm snow melt, crushing dried thyme for antiseptic poultices. Work numbs mind enough to make time elastic. Hours pass, bells mark none. Finally, last patient bandaged, Dalba dismisses you. Hall is emptier now, embers glowing like sleeping dragon eyes. You find your pallet near hearthstones, your cloak crisp outside yet plush inside. Before lying down, you unroll foot wraps of nettle fiber, itchy but warm, and rub feet until sparks ignite skin. Nearby, the kennel mastiff snores, paws twitching dream hunts. You nestle close. Shared heat is cheapest coin tonight. Sleep seeps slow through joints. In half dream, you hear wind slip into cracks, whistle lullabies. Icicles on the sill chime, striking random notes, winter's wind chimes. Your eyes finally drift when a low caw echoes, dawn's raven announcing another cycle. Odd how reassurance can come from such a grim bird. Yet before eyelids shudder, a final duty. If this frost-forged journey settled like soft snow upon your mind, press that like, engrave a comment recounting your favorite survival trick, and brandish the share button like a torch for friends wandering their own cold corridors. Subscribing places another log on our story fire so it never gutters. Every interaction is a spark. Together they burn bright enough to warm even a stone-cold castle winter. Thus ends our vigil of 7 unwound nights, our pilgrimage across ice-rutted halls, over glass rivers, through breath-stealing forests and back again, wiser to cold's cruelties and its strange crystalline beauties. May the embers of these tales glow soft behind your eyelids, coaxing dreams as silent as snow settling on ramparts. Rest easy, traveler of stories. The castle walls hold steady, and dawn's first thaw is only a sleep away. Good night, and until the next quiet quest, keep the hearth of curiosity blazing.